name is the quick introduction is Joel Meitaya. I am from Ngorongoro district, that is Loliondo division, and currently in Arusha. And for your question, what I was doing in Nairobi when we were put into lockup, I think it was about an experience of 6 to 7 hours. Well, we were demonstrating, because I remember it was on 17th, if I'm not wrong, 18th, June 2022. And that happened just 1 week after the people of Ngorongoro and Loliondo were being affected by the government of Tanzania. By that time, that is the current regime of Samia Suluhu Hassan. And by that time, I was a student at Kabarak University, Nakuru, main campus. I was in my second year, heading to that year. So immediately I heard what was going on in Loliondo, that's my home area. I decided to rush home from school so that I can see in my own eyes and hear in my own ears what is really happening in my home area. And then one day after I arrived home, I joined my fellow men and women in Loliondo. We demonstrated against the atrocities and the eviction of our people. And then we tried to stand against the police, the paramilitary men and women who were demarcating the land, which we were used to for grazing, farming, and doing any other human activity that we were doing. But one day after, I was taking videos, photos of those paramilitary, those, violations of human rights. Many people were bulleting, many people were tear gas, were leg broken, hand broken. So I was taking those videos and I was sharing to so many friends inside the country and outside the country, including Kenyans friends. So at that time, when I was sharing those photos and videos in my social media accounts, and then the government now got attention of who really was sharing these documents, photos, and videos. So they come after me at one of the evening in my home area, and fortunately, they didn't find me. That was, I remember, it was on 12th, and then I ran away to Kenya on 12th. It was midnight, so I had to run away for my safety because the environment, the place was so much insecure for me to live in. And so I had to run away for my safety. And then the moment I get into Kenya, I got a friend who was Maison Olenguruna. And then I also communicated to Jonathan Elapasha, who was then, I don't know now if he is still
chairperson for MOA, my Unity Agenda.
Unity Agenda. And then we decided to arrange for a demonstration. Actually, I found them already planning for a peaceful demonstration across Nairobi streets. So they invited me, and then we came with my son to Nairobi, all the way from Narok. And then we knew where the procession was starting and where it was heading to. So we joined the procession. I can't remember the street really, but we found so many women from Kenya, so many men peacefully demonstrating alongside the Nairobi streets. And we were, wow, this is incredible. We had to join the procession. So immediately we joined the procession. The moment we were about to read our statement, we were tear gassed by police, Kenya police, and they were saying, you are bringing conflicts among Tanzania and Kenya, because we were heading to the High Commissioner's office in Nairobi. So that is the day, and we were taken, the three of us, me, Jonathan Olepasha, and Mason Guruna, to Central Police Station. And we spent around 7 to 6 hours in that cell. And in the evening, we got friends who came to see us, and finally we were free.
Your experience, you were still a student at that time in a foreign land. And while, with the protests are happening back at home, things were also quite difficult. Maybe if you could, there's a background, of course, of this story, but maybe at that time, what was happening in Ngorongoro that mandated us to, want to demonstrate. Kenyans, although we are Maasai, all of us, but I think, issues of another state would probably be considered issues of that state. But why were we then interested in this case? What was happening?
I think, what was happening really was, I think it is in history, but that there is never ever a government that have did such a thing that the Tanzanian government did. Because imagine the land you have been living for centuries, the land you have been using for your all years of your life. Our grandfathers were born in that land. And then just a person from nowhere, a visitor a stranger from nowhere, coming one of the morning and telling you, just go out because I don't want to see you in this land. This is not your land. You can't just imagine. So I think what made, it's not only Kenyan, it's not only people of Kenya, the whole world, because the situation of Loliondo and Ngorongoro went viral to the whole world. I think what made that situation unique, it is the kind of brutality, the kind of human rights violation that has happened in that time. It has never been experienced anywhere in the world. It has never been, seen anywhere happening, I can say, in the whole world, because people shooting, we still have people who have lost from 2022 to now. They have been kidnapped by police, paramilitary men. They have been taken up to now. We don't know where they are. Their families are suffering. Only men, 84 years people, they have been losing up to now. We don't know where they have been dumped in the rivers. It is so. So I think what draws the situation of many people is a kind of human rights violation, the mass, violation of human rights that has happened in that part of the area. So I think that is what really, drawn the attention of so many people, including you people in Kenya, that why we have never seen this. We have never seen this. And especially the Maasai people of Kenya and other parts of the world, as I have said, many people have never seen this kind of, violation of human rights, killing people, shooting people in broad daylight, shooting people, killing people. We were collecting people who have died. Collecting people who have died, your brother, you are collecting your brother. And the person who shot him or her is a stranger who just came that day and told you, just go because I don't know you. What follows is shooting people, killing people, people being, kidnapped and being disappeared. So I think that is what draws the attention of so many people, including our brothers in Kenya.
You were a student here at that time, and at least you had a way to access Kenya at that time, especially fleeing Ngorongoro, and also the activism that you're having there. And I was just taking a quick look at the history of the conflict, like the historical context and origins from the 1950s to 2020. The British government relocating the Maasai herders from Serengeti to establish the Ngorongoro Conservation Area. with promises of perpetual grazing rights. Initially, the Maasai communities were permitted to coexist sustainably with wildlife under the 1975 Conservation Act. I don't know if you can speak to this, but I think it's good for anyone who's listening and watching this to be able to speak to this, if you could. But with time, restrictions came, activities, because now it becomes a World Heritage Site, if you would correct me, but it's a place that is considered, a global example of how animals and people and nature can coexist. So a cultivation ban by 2009 happened, and there were strict limits on how buildings would be made, like infrastructure, health facilities, schools, homes. You'd probably be able to speak to such things. And how did that start being curtailed, would you say?
Well, I think the history of Ngorongoro, because initially Ngorongoro district was called Maasai Land, Maasai district. That was actually the first name of Ngorongoro.
Maasai district.
Actually called Maasai district.
Okay.
And then after now the Constitution of 1977, when the districts, councils and district governments were formed, then now the new name Ngorongoro district came in. Okay, as you have said, initially Ngorongoro, especially Ngorongoro Conservation Area, because here we are talking of two parts of Maasai Land. That is Ngorongoro Conservation Area and Loliondo. And these two areas, they are being taken by the government because of two things. Loliondo, people were affected so that trophy hunting can take place.
Trophy hunting. Okay.
The area that has been demarcated, that is 1,500 plus kilometer squares of land, which were grabbed from 4,000 kilometers of land, because the entire land that was people's land, Maasai land, was 4,000 kilometer squares. So they have taken 1,500 plus, even 1,500, I think 62 kilometers square of land. So
that's actually quite a big piece of land if you try to consider, if you say 1,000 kilometers.
1,500 kilometer squares of land. That is I don't know how you can calculate into acres, but
kilometers, yes.
Yes, kilometer squares.
Wow, okay.
Do you get the calculation?
The magnitude in my head really cannot, I cannot compute it.
Okay, that is it. The land that was actually grabbed is 1,562 kilometer squares of land out of 4,000. So now we have remained with around 2,030 something. So that is what made the land of our people to be taken. It is actually to pave way for trophy hunting.
That's Loliondo.
This business is has been handed to an Arab company called Otello Business Corporation, actually based in Loliondo. It is actually inside the demarcated land, the now called Pololeti Game Reserve. Now Ngorongoro Conservation Area is a different story. In history, since time immemorial, Ngorongoro Conservation Area, in its laws, it allows a multiple land use plan. That is livestock keeping, agriculture, and tourism. That's what the laws of Ngorongoro Conservation Area says. But during Magufuli time, actually it's Magufuli who came and prohibit agriculture, cultivation, those people who are cultivating, because that is actually a highland. It's like Mao. Yes, when you come to Ngorongoro, you cannot differentiate. You can just easily say, this is Mao. Because the land is very highland. So in Magufuli time came and prohibit, cultivation. He says, no, let livestock activity takes place and tourism only.
Mm-hmm.
But when Samia came in on 12th April 2021, he says we have to see in the second eye the issue of Ngorongoro. There is no way the people who live in Ngorongoro are actually, the population of the people is increasing.
Yeah.
The number of livestock is increasing. And people are destroying the environment every day. So we have to remove these people so that tourism can grow well in that part of the area.
And that's why, actually, and that's when it launched the voluntary relocation initiative, moving people to Msomera in the Tanga region. Exactly. And that's around 600 kilometers away.
Yes, yes, 600 and Ushe. So now when the agriculture was prohibited in Ngorongoro NCA, and then they started the process of voluntary relocation, which is not really voluntary, because people are being bribed with sums of money so that they can live. Your cows, your donkeys, your children are being transported freely. And then the government has already built houses. I've personally here visited the Msomera place where people are being relocated, because we did a number of research pertaining human rights violation of the people of Ngorongoro. Yeah. We have one day traveled to Msomera and see. We have just decided to say with a group of men that let's go and see if really the situation of our people who have relocated, because we knew these people were forced to relocate. It was not really a voluntary issue. Yeah. So imagine you are taken to a house with the 2 rooms and a sitting room. That house, imagine there is one old man who has 3 wives. Mm-hmm. You are taken to a house with the 2 rooms and a sitting room. And then these 3 wives of yours, each one the first one has 7 children, the second has 5, and the third wife has 3 children. Mm-hmm. That is 15 children and 3 wives plus a man. That is how many? That is 19 people in a house of 2 rooms and a sitting room. Okay. A person who has been living, in Ngorongoro, imagine this person has been living, every wife has his own hut. So you are going to congest 19 to 20 people in one house with the 2 rooms and 1 sitting room. So you can't imagine how those people survive. And then another second issue, what we have seen, which is very sad. Yeah. You are taken with your 200 cows or 300 cows. In Ngorongoro, you used to have a very large piece of land. Livestock are grazing freely. They can go to 50 to 100 kilometers grazing without any limitation. But you are taken to Msomera, you are given 3 acres to 5 acres at maximum, and you have 200 to 100 cows. That number minus sheep and goats and donkeys. So how can you, as a pastoral who you have been used to that, to the space, that productive piece of land, and then now you are taken to a dry land with a limited, access to land. So just imagine, how can you manage those flocks of yours and that number of families? Yeah, I think in the meantime, just within 3 years, those people who have relocated, they started to complain that the government is not really, this is not this, because they were promised, that quality life, that you will have a very large piece of land to graze your livestock. You will have, if you have 3 wives, you will have 3 houses. But when they reached there, they found a different story. So they started to complain. They started even to file cases in the court, issuing the government that you lied to us. So we are now having a very high number of people who wish to come back to Ngorongoro as we speak now. But they are not denied, because how can you travel and you have already been given size of land? The government cannot allow you to come back. And if you are found that you have come away from Somera to Ngorongoro, the government will deal with you. It will be a different story.
And many of those Maasai people, because then I assume that these are people who lived in an environment as a community, and then some of them went, some of them remained. But I would imagine that, at least from the face I see here in Kenya, the community literally, and how our acts are divided, the community has some level of ownership, even legally. But I also don't understand the land structure in Tanzania. How come the Maasai can lose land like that? Is it the constitution that allows for that? I think we've lost Joel a little bit. And as we wait for him, it's really important what we're talking about, because for a long time, this case has been going on, and I think it's also building up. So I'll quickly read your comments as we wait for Joel to come back. Juliet says, all right, so Joel is here, but I'll just go ahead and Juliet says, hi, greetings from, I think she's in the UK. Habari ya Arusha, she says, tuambieni about Loliondo. I think that has been discussed. And then she says it's the first time she's hearing the story. And she's also looking it up. I think she's completely locked in. So for all the people that are watching, please leave a comment. This is the time. Let's have a discussion and also see how the situation is. Joel, you were talking about, we were talking about how come the Maasai can lose land. How is it, how is it, laid out in your constitution?
Well, the Constitution of Tanzania 1977 says that actually the land in Tanzania, the laws of the land in Tanzania cannot really guarantee private ownership of land or individual ownership of land per se. But the Constitution says that all the land belong to the people, but the president is just a trustee.
Okay.
That's what the law says. So today you cannot own land privately in Tanzania unless the power of the citizens to own land is in the village level, because we have what we call vijiji. You call it in Kenya locations. So the land in Tanzania can only be owned by the people through the village, councils. We have the village councils, which are headed by the wenyeviti. We call them wenyeviti. That's village chairs. So that's when the people, citizens can. That's a place they can assess, to land rights, how they can question about their land. That's the place we can say, now we have land, but you cannot have the right to own land privately unless it is through the village council. So
okay, and how do people build houses then? Do you build and then maybe someone could decide they want to demolish it, or how does that work?
Okay, because every village has its own land certificate.
Okay.
So the people who are born in that village, who are actually the residents of that village, can decide according to the procedure they have set for themselves and the village council has set, to subdivide the village land. They can have their own land use plan. They can say, for example, the village I come from is called Olosokwan, which actually was the ground where the mass human rights violation took place.
Yeah.
We have put a land use plan where we have set apart for grazing only, no any other activities allowed. We have also set part for cultivation and agriculture.
Okay.
We have also set a place for plots. Whoever who needs a plot, there's a procedure to be followed. That you have to go to the office of the village chairperson.
Yeah.
He registers you. He gives you a plot. Maybe you want to start a business. You want to build your own house in town, because we also have towns. So there's a procedure that is set by laws of the village councils, set by the village councils.
Yeah.
So you just follow those, and every village is mandated to have their own land use plan. How they divide their land, how they use, they put it into categories on how they want to use.
Okay.
So there is no actually privatization of land as an individual. You cannot wake up today and say, these 20 acres are mine. Nobody can come in. No. And actually the president, the law say, the president can do anything. Have the right to grab land. Yani, sheria inasema kwamba rais ana mamlaka ya kuweka matumizi ardhi kulingana na atakavyo yeye. So the president can wake up today and go into a press and say, the 800 acres of land in Ngorongoro district can be used to build tourist lodges, and nothing you can do.
Okay.
Nothing you can do. You cannot say this is, we are, the issue of Ngorongoro, because we are indigenous people.
Yeah.
So that is our ancestral land.
Yeah.
It is not the land that we have just found it and we were just given by the government. No. We were there since time immemorial.
Then there were protests. There were reports that, the essential services, healthcare, education, water, all these things were withheld or in a way suspended. And however much it was termed voluntary at that time, many people saw it as, coercion, that people leave the place. But still people have held on. Every time I look at this picture, that I think this is a picture that many people know. If you could quickly describe that, and when was it taken, and what's the context around it? Just talking about the coercion part, healthcare, education, just looking at that picture.
Okay, let me start before even we took this picture and before even this activity happened. Because actually the picture you saw was taken on September 15th, 2024 last year.
Okay.
And before this activity happened, because this, for your information, these are 40,000 people in one of the hills in Ngorongoro.
Okay.
This is the day we say enough is enough. Enough to atrocities of this government. Enough to, to human rights violation of our people. Before this activity took place, this is a peaceful demonstration.
Yeah.
These are an armed 40,000 Maasai people. And actually, because I'm going there, I'm coming there.
Yeah.
Before this happened, because this one we experience, these violations and these crimes against our people has been going on for the 4 years of Samia Suluhu Hassan. Since he took office of the president after Magufuli died, and I can assure you, if Magufuli could have, is still alive today, we could not have even lost an inch of the land, despite Magufuli being one of the enemy of democracy and rule of law. But when it comes to protection of public natural resources, I can say he was one of the best patriots. So for the 4 years of Samia Suluhu, For instance, Ngorongoro Conservation Area, because Ngorongoro Conservation Area, we have about 120,000 people who live there. Maasai people who have been living there for hundreds of years.
Okay, but, and we are losing you a little bit with the sound. I think you maybe blocked the microphone. Yeah, maybe you.
Am I audible?
Yeah, it's better. Yeah, maybe you had blocked the microphone with your finger. Okay.
So I was saying, when Samia started the voluntary relocation part, to say because it was not really voluntary.
Yeah.
It started. There is something we call a cold war. If a person wants to kill you, he can use another way without, shooting you, because Ngorongoro is a different area. Is an area where thousands and millions of tourists flock in that area day and night. So you cannot go there and take abduct people and shoot people in broad daylight, because the moment you shoot people, you are actually destroying the image of the government, because you will meet thousands of tourists who stands and see what is happening. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the issues that help the people of Ngorongoro Conservation Area from being victimized like the other people of Loliondo. So as we speak, from 2024 backwards to 2021, all social services in Ngorongoro Conservation Area were victimized.
What does that mean in terms of social services?
I mean, even having an access to a paracetamol is a crime. You mean what I say?
Yeah.
You cannot even allow to have an access of a paracetamol. That's a crime, because all the hospitals in Ngorongoro Conservation Area were frozen, they were locked, and nobody was allowed to treat people inside the NCA, nor even take those who take medicine to, because in Ngorongoro Conservation Area, we have one of the Catholic Church hospitals in NCA.
Yeah.
The very big. The hospital has been operating for years, has been treating people freely. But the government one day came and said, we are locking this one, we are taking this one to Msomera. Why? Because they know those critical social services, when people are lacking those services like medicine, hospitals, schools, actually you are forcing people, in another way, you are forcing people to leave. Because if you cannot access to healthy services and education was criminalized.
So people don't go to school. Schools are closed as well.
I am coming to the current situation.
Okay.
I am saying that from 2024 backward.
Yeah.
Children who are registering, those who finished standard 7 and now they are going to from 1 to secondary level.
Yeah.
Parents were told, you have to register your children in the coming year in Msomera, but not in Ngorongoro.
Okay.
So imagine that situation. There were, vehicles, these containers, lorries, who have been taking food, maize to NCA. They were blocking the gate because the government wants people to die hungry, so that they can say, now we cannot sustain this situation. We have to leave.
Okay.
We had one of the Fly Medical Service, one of the Good Samaritan, who was treating pregnant women, breastfeeding women, and young kids freely. Is the man who started to operate in 1988 up to last year, 2023. The government shut down that aeroplane that medical service. The aeroplane was going around all Maasai district in Tanzania, Longido, Monduli, Simanjiro, Kiteto, Ngorongoro. But the government said no. The government closed that service because it doesn't want our people to get that service. So now after people, we say, now this we cannot sustain this. Enough is enough. We have to go to the road. Our people came out. The picture you saw is a 40,000 people, Maasai, on the hills of Ngorongoro. It's actually on the hills of Ngorongoro, demonstrating against Samia Suluhu Hassan regime, because we have not experienced that kind of regime, which is very inhuman, very hopeless regime. So after now this day, because these people, we get into the road for 5 days. Then the government now came in, and Samia sent his, cabinet secretaries and say, please go and talk to the people of Ngorongoro. And these 5 days, tourists were flocking in Ngorongoro. They were passing by these people, sitting down, an army. Tourists were taking pictures and sending to their country. So actually, Samia saw this one is going to destroy my image globally. Okay. So he came and say, now Maasai, I need to talk with you. I will arrange a day. We come and speak. So actually, he sent his representatives. They came. Now the president has agreed that we have to go to the table and discuss what is the problem.
Sorry, I lost you a little bit.
Samia,
can you hear me?
Samia said that my phone was calling.
Okay.
So Samia said on 1st December 2024, I will meet Maasai representatives, including traditional leaders, political leaders, groups representatives like women, men, and youth. So he actually met those people. He met around 300 people in Arusha.
The president?
And yes, actually.
Okay.
So she said, at the other hand, we have to preserve Ngorongoro because it's a World Heritage Site, but also your number is increasing, livestock are destroying the environment. How? How can millions of wild beasts in Ngorongoro cannot destroy environment? How comes thousands of livestock of Maasai can be a destruction to environment while millions of wild beasts cannot? That's no logic.
Yeah, because one that has been put out, and I'm going to read something here. Maasai population, one of the things that is an argument here is that the Maasai population in the Ngorongoro conservation area, which surged from 8,700 people in 1966, when these issues were not here, to 93,000 in 2017, and projected to reach 161,000 by 2027, with livestock numbers going up to 300,000 by 2017, which is basically significantly increasing grazing pressure. So balancing both, the numbers, the people, infrastructure, and building all those things, I think that was an argument that also many Tanzanians felt.
Yeah. Well, that has been the government's, opinion.
Yeah.
And that has been one of the reasons why they are forcing people out of Ngorongoro. But, Ngorongoro has been existing since time immemorial. Because after our people are being, the history of the Maasai is very long. Because when we try to go to the years of 1940s, and that is from Moru to Serengeti to Ngorongoro, and now where we are, it is very long.
Yeah.
But shortly, that is a tribal consent and mindset, because how comes the Maasai people are the only whom you can question their increasing population, while other around 200 plus now She tribes? Do you want to tell me that those other tribes were not increasing? Okay. That one, might be about the issue of conservation and balancing the ecosystem.
Yeah.
But since the Maasai have been in Ngorongoro, you knew humans are productive, and that is continuous. And since the inception of Ngorongoro agreement with the government, even with the British government and the German government, there is nothing like limiting the population of people and livestock.
Okay.
There was nothing like that. That mindset came in with Samia's regime. So you cannot put people, you cannot expect us to live for around 100 plus years or 200 years, and you want us to, our population to remain, the same, like the day you found us. Yeah. You cannot, because we are productive, our livestock are productive. They increase in numbers every day. So that was, we have been, arguing with that mindset as tribal.
Yeah.
Because we are only Maasai indigenous people, that is a tribal mindset. Because why don't you question the other population of other 200 plus tribes in the country? Why a Maasai only? And the Maasai, we are not the one who live, beside the conservation areas and national parks. There are many communities like Waskuma, Kurias who live, but their population with their livestock increasing have never been questioned. Yeah. Why the Maasai today? And that mindset, that population question have never been questioned by other regimes.
Yeah.
Why today? Because my brother, this is because there is a small group of people who want to benefit from the tourism, business. So you have to force people out and their belongings so that you set lodges who can be a revenue, and money production sources for you.
Yeah.
Nothing more short of that.
And so the beacons were, and I remember when you were protesting here, the beacons were placed, and there was this argument, people don't even know the difference between Loliondo and Ngorongoro, and then there's the beacon belonging to, like the one that there was 1,500 acres, then there was another amount of land that was in question. And when the 40,000 people, blocked the Ngorongoro Serengeti Road in that year, August, the government, started things like, like delisting wards and villages, and also there are talks of voting rights being curtailed and other, policies that were passed, although they were, repealed. And during that time, you're still in Kenya.
Well, I think you mentioned something very important, which has just came up recently last year, heading to end of last year. Yeah. That's the listing of villages in Ngorongoro district, in Ngorongoro conservation area. Ngorongoro district has 3 divisions. We have Loliondo division, we call them Taravas. We have Sale division, and we have Ngorongoro division.
Okay.
Ngorongoro division is now the Ngorongoro conservation area. Now, people have been confusing about these 2 places, Ngorongoro and Loliondo, because there have been 2 places of discussion in Tanzania as far as Maasai issue life is concerned. I told you earlier that Loliondo is a different case because it is the land being alienated from its people so that trophy hunting, which has been handed to one of the Arabs company, OBC, from United Arab Emirates. And so the land has been taken from its people so that this person, one single family from UAE, to be handed this large piece of land so that he can use it as a trophy hunting base. So that's Loliondo. Ngorongoro now is about also, tourism kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because the government is saying we want to the Ngorongoro conservation area to remain in that angle as a World Heritage Site. But how comes, today, the one which they call a World Heritage Site is the most and the number one place where its people are the poorest in the whole country. Ngorongoro contributes around 8% of the total, what we call the total
GDP.
revenue collection. Yes,
GDP. Yeah.
Yes, 8% of the total GDP of the country.
Oh, really?
And the people, yes, exactly. And the people who are also one of the characters in the tourist sector, because tourism without Maasai is not tourism. I can tell you. The reason why millions of tourists flock to Ngorongoro is because one of the characters is the Maasai people. Most tourists don't come really to see, wildlife. Apart from wildlife being one of the very crucial elements in tourism,
yeah,
the Maasai people is one of the very most elements that is, making tourists to flock to Ngorongoro. But in Tanzania, the whole country, the poorest people are the Ngorongoro people, the Maasai people, us, in the whole country. Imagine having one of the most destination that is contributing to the largest percentage of GDP of the country, and its people are the poorest in the country. That is unfortunate.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, it is unfortunate.
And it's been listed, before you move on, because I think this is a very important seg to what we move on to next. It's been listed by as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO.
Mm-hmm.
And as a World Heritage Site, then there are tenets of, the reasons why it's a World Heritage Site. In terms of, I don't know what convention they used. Maybe it's the 1979, I think. 79 or 75. But by listing it in that convention and the people that are living side by side with the environment, has it spoken out, UNESCO? Has it spoken about, the violations now that, the argument from the people doing the evictions is that the population is surging? Will it still, has UNESCO spoken about that?
Well, since this issue of people started, we have been having several categories of people, several categories of groups doing advocacy,
mm-hmm.
Both locally and internationally. And UNESCO offices in Geneva has been one of our very critical area that most of the time our representatives from our community have been visiting almost every year.
Okay.
Why? Because Ngorongoro is also under one of the World Heritage Sites globally, and is recognized as that. But the stand of UNESCO has been the side of the government. They have been pro-government. They have never shown any sign of, being on the side of the community. Because I remember we had one of two cabinet secretaries for foreign affairs. One said, actually, the Maasai are not indigenous people. And that is the stand of the government up to date. These people have been coming from Sudan just some years back, just recently. And, they have also came up with this mindset, stupid mindset of most of these Maasai are Kenyans, they have just flew away. They have actually said the reason why the population of the livestock of the Maasai in Ngorongoro have increased is because most of these livestock are not owned by the Tanzanians Maasai. They have, bring the case of their Ledamas cows in Loliondo, livestock in Loliondo, their Lengus cows in Ngorongoro, they have actually said that. So they are saying most of this livestock belongs to the Kenyan Maasais. So they always bring to their brothers here in Ngorongoro. So that's also one of their reasons why they want to reduce this number of livestock. But coming to your question, the stand of the UNESCO is, as per now, is that there must be that coexistence between the people, wildlife, and their life in general. But the government stand has been, these people are not indigenous people, as they call themselves. They are not one of the indigenous people in Tanzania. They are just invaders. So if we want to remove them, we can remove them because they are not indigenous people. This is not their ancestral land. So the stand of the UNESCO is not really promising.
Yeah,
I can say that shortly. Is not really promising. We have been advocating for around 3 years now. They have never shown any sign of promise to, recognizing even us as indigenous people or our land as ancestral land. But I think they are also behind pushing this agenda of the government of forcing people out.
It's a tricky balance to do. I would say just also getting the backing up of, citizens of the country, looking at also the nature of the laws that you have. I think that would be very difficult. Yesterday, I was talking with someone about Old Kiombo, the land also being disputed here in Narok County, the mountain in Masai Mara. And you can see that it's a legal battle now where the stretch is between individual ownership, company ownership, between, who is holding the land, who's holding custody of the land for the people. And I think now that the laws are structured differently in Tanzania, then that's a different, those are different waters to wade. And
yes.
I'm just looking at now the situation post 2022, 2023, because I think I last saw you in 2022.
Yes.
What happened after? We kept quiet.
Okay, first of all, let me reiterate something about last year. One of the other reasons why we demonstrated last year and we went to the road is because the government came and saw that this voluntary relocation is not really working as they wished.
Okay.
Because there was a big resistance coming from the community because the community was well mobilized. So the government faced a very tough resistance actually from last year, 2023 to 2024, a very big resistance. So they say another way we can use is delisting these all villages in NCA. So that because we are heading to election, actually, for your information, we are conducting a general election October this year, 29th October this year.
Okay.
So we are. So the government said, now we have to deregister these villages actually from Ngorongoro district so that we can move them to Msomera so that these people can be voters in Msomera. And actually they did that. They opened the servers, they register everybody. And when you try to enter your name and your ID number, you found yourself being in one of the villages in Msomera without even being, question whether you agree or not.
Yeah.
So we said, no, this issue has reached to a point where we cannot sustain at all.
Yeah.
And that actually after we demonstrate, before we demonstrate, we taken the case to the court and we sued the government, we challenged the government. And actually before even the court decided on the issue, we went to the road and the government, the president came and met with our people And the president say, now, I cannot, you will remain in your land. And then the following day, the minister of local government brought back our names and our villages to Ngorongoro. So actually, that's why we say freedom is not is demanded. It is not requested or something you can beg on.
Yeah.
It is demanded. Another issue, because this is a critical issue and has been, discussed about around issues of conservation.
Yeah.
The issue of Loliondo and Ngorongoro is not about conservation, because the government say we want to protect the ecosystem. We want to protect wildlife. We want to protect the status of Ngorongoro from, disappearing. But, conservation is not a conservation without what we call coexistence. When you separate wildlife with indigenous people like the Maasai, that is not conservation. So recently, July this year,
yeah.
I can't remember the date. I don't know if you saw the video of the president when he was swearing in the new commissioner for the NCA. He directed him actually that Ngorongoro, we need to start a new agenda in Ngorongoro because the last one was not working. So we need to start afresh. And he was directing him that go and remove those people in Ngorongoro. He actually termed the people as Miba, thorns. Nenda katoe Miba wote walioko Ngorongoro, because we want the status of Ngorongoro to remain as the World Heritage wants. So he spoke just 2 weeks ago. So she said, because now we are preparing, because we know after election, if Samia will come in her second term, then nobody will. I can assure you here, because I know we will hold so many other talks here.
Yeah,
I can assure you, if Samia comes in again for a second term, nobody will be left in Ngorongoro. In 2026, she will actually make sure that nobody is left in Ngorongoro, because of what she said in 2 weeks ago. She actually said, one day I went to Ngorongoro, and the first thing I saw is cows, sheep, and donkeys. And like the time I went, because he said, like, the first time I went to Ngorongoro, the first thing I saw is giraffes, elephants, lions, and zebras. But now, when you enter through the Lodware gate, the first thing you see is Maasai. Hata ng'ombe imekonda, yeye mwenyewe amekonda, hawezi kuamsha ile ng'ombe. So those terms can actually, it tells you there is no future. So, and then after he met the representative of the people last year, December 1, he formed the 2 commissions of inquiry. I don't know if you had this idea.
I haven't seen that. One
commission was going to see the issue of voluntary relocation, because we have been complaining that this process is illegal. It is not following the due procedures. If people are being forced, it is not really voluntary. So he formed a commission to follow on that, whether people are being forced or voluntary. The other commission was to go and see the issue of land conflicts in Loliondo and also Ngorongoro at the same time. But even the 2 commissions went to the ground. They interviewed people, they listened to the people. We submitted all the documents, including the documents of 1940s, 1930s, when our people were forced out of Serengeti, Moru, and before even that commission submit their report, because it will submit their report on, I think, September.
Yeah.
Then the president spoke 2 weeks ago, and you see, this is preempting the work of the commission she formed. And then we see, like, we have no future here. We have to reorganize again. We have to prepare ourselves so that we can tackle, because this president is actually on a mission to kill us. And then that issue, she directed the new commissioner. She told him that we need more lodges in Ngorongoro, because today, if a tourist books a lodge, a place to sleep in Ngorongoro, if he books in June, he will be told to the place will be in October. He will get accommodation in October. So she directed that we need more lodges. So actually building more lodges in Ngorongoro means people have to be evicted so that they pay for the construction of more lodges and tourist camps. So actually we don't in 2026 after election, if Samia comes in, we don't expect nothing short of more struggles, more fights, and more human rights violations. As far as, please, I forgot what you asked.
Totally. I think you articulate it so well that I think anyone who's listening is probably finally getting the picture. One thing that I'm slowly realizing is actually the difference between Loliondo and Ngorongoro is quite clear right now. And also, it has a financial issue with the GDP issue that you raised as well. And something that was said was even the commission that was set that is going to give a report is set to had the support of the community as well. And after they did that with their findings, I think there was someone called Mwaki and an engineer. And after they did that, now they're going to submit the report. You're saying already there's a preemptive statement by the president herself. So I'm just thinking, do you think the people then who live there, those had been relocated, they want to come back, there are statements that are conflicting from the higher side, will this really ever end? Because now the country really looks at it as a big source of income. And now even with the building of lodges on this beautiful piece of land, it means that the community, the economical aspect and the population of tourists that want to come there is big. Will it ever stop?
I think the situation will not end as far as Samia and a very small group of people are still in power, because it is not the issue of the Maasai, Ngorongoro, Loliondo. It is not about conservation at all. Because conservation does not say you have to evict people so that you can increase the number of tourism coming in that area. The Maasai people and their culture is not an enemy of conservation at all. Is not the Maasai are not enemies of tourism. Tourism can even do better with the presence of the Maasai. Because as I told you earlier, the Maasai are a crucial character when it comes to tourism and conservation issue. So you cannot tell me today, now move because I want the tourist sector to do better and we want to collect more revenues. Actually, the data that is as per now is the money collected in Ngorongoro and even Serengeti from 2022 to now has dropped. The number of revenue collected has dropped. Because of why? Because of, the image coming from human rights violation, coming from, criminalizing social services from people assessing them. That image has really destroyed the government of Tanzania. And that really has even decreased the number of tourists coming to Ngorongoro. Despite we are still, seeing a lot of the number of, but before 2022, before Samia came in, I can tell you, we had millions of tourists, more than these ones, more than from 2022 to now coming to Ngorongoro. Ngorongoro, the government was collecting a lot of money, billions of dollars from 2022 backwards. Associating the data from 2022 to now is very much different. So I'm saying we don't expect this one to end unless we have another change of regimes. Yeah. We have another change of governments, and we have another change of leadership. That's the only way this situation can end. But as long as this regime of Samia is still in power, things are going to be more worse than before. I can tell you. But we will fight, because one thing we have decided is that many number of men and women have said that we will be the last people to be buried in Ngorongoro. So that's we don't expect this one to end soon, because actually we know the kind of the leadership we have, the kind of CCM regime we have is very much inhuman, very much hopeless regime. So we don't expect this one to end soon, as much as Samia is in power.
I'd like to bring this to a close, and I know we'll be able to have these conversations as we go. All I ask is also you need to keep safe from these things, because it's not a light issue. And just balancing all these things as a citizen, as here I will call you an indigenous, you're an indigenous, person, but I think that also calls for some bureaucratic recognitions that, need to be done. But personally, I'm Maasai, and I believe that I'm indigenous, because what makes me indigenous is my entire history is tied to that piece of land. So as we bring this to a close, there are things that we probably don't have much control over, but I think keeping updated is the most important thing. Your closing remarks on this, and a call to action for anyone either involved or not involved in this case.
Well, as we close, let me say this in a very short line, that it is not only in Ngorongoro or in Loliondo or in Tanzania where we are seeing this land grabbing coming up easily. We are also seeing in parts of Kenya. You mentioned the issue of Orkiombo. You mentioned there is also the issue of the Mao people the other time who have been evicted, and the issue of the Ogiek people, who are also one of the indigenous people. My statement is this, that ore engulukoni ormasai na lazima be kingoro, na lazima be grip. Amo ore urithi naata irmaasai toonkera enye ashu toishoritin naaponu naa enkulukuoni ake. Ore irmaasai naa entoki naji enkiteng itegemea pee enya endaa, enkiteng itegemea pee kipuo sipitali, enkiteng itegemea pee kisum inkera, enkiteng itegemea enkaji ormaasinda pee kiasaki isiaitin pookin naayieuni tiatua akeyie enkishui ang pookin. Naa ore ina kiteng, mishiu enkiteng metii enkulukuoni, nimishiu metii enkop. Tenikijo taata maishooi enkop ormaasai pookin natii enyamali, nikiminie enkiteng, naa ore adake pee kiminie enkiteng, niminie ormaasani enkishui, niminie entaisere. Ayieu najoki olosho lormaasai, ematorrip enkulukuoni ormaasai. Ajoki sii irkijanani lormaasai etii enetii, Kenya, Tanzania, etii akeyie nkwapi pookin neetii. Ore enkulukuoni ormaasai nimikintoki apik sarakasi, nimikintoki apik enkiguran. Tenetii iltung'anak lemesidan laa ninche ogira aishooyo enkulukuoni ormaasai tenkoitoi, amu hata kwa Tanzania kuna wengi tu ambao wanaunga sana serikali mkono kufanya haya ambayo yanafanywa na serikali. lakini unaona wengi wao ni watu ambao wamekuwa wakiungwa na pesa, wakipewa hela ili wasimame na serikali, waseme kwamba wao ndio viongozi wa jamii, kwamba tumekubali serikali ifanye hivi, lakini hiyo sio msimamo wa jamii. Neeku kaina najo irmaasai pookin emataa tenebo tenishir olosho le Tanzania, ninche ishir ile Kenya, ninche ishir ilotii enetii, tenishir ile Kenya nikinchir ile Tanzania, maisha eeku ore ake ninye enkulukuoni neeku entoki nabo naa kitutum irmaasai pookin, neeku ewuei nikintanang'ie orkiyioi lang pookin. Kwa hivyo mimi naweza nikasema hayo. Thank you brother, we will keep in touch so that we can give you updates on what is going on as far as this issue is concerned.
I have to say much respect for everything and the courage that you have. And I think for all that happens and the struggle that people have for what they rightfully believe is theirs, I think there's always, a silver lining at the end. So I think keeping at it and being able to, also get support from people who are probably not experiencing that firsthand is important. Also, a call, because this is a trend that you're seeing, a call to indigenous communities. I think it's important for us to understand what is on paper as well, because these things should be preempted. Most of the communities that don't have problems, especially, that are not Maasai, they don't have these problems because they were able to preempt what is coming. So even as we come up as younger people, what we call the Gen Z generation, as the millennials that are seeing these things, I think it's about time to start talking on paper and being able to preempt these things. Probably, there's some things that make sense that would probably be an excuse, and those in power probably would want to heave that off the community. But how do you deal with population? How do you deal with livestock? How do you deal with all those things? How do you plan around that within the years that are coming? Because I think this is a danger to everyone who, is going to be born in such a piece of land, in that environment, if there is no plan. Again, I send my love to all the people in Tanzania, all the Maasai people experiencing these problems. Tulikula tiagas na mkituita tena tutakula pamoja until at least a way forward is found. I would like to say thank you, brother. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining me today.
Na congratulations.
Asante sana. Nashukuru pia. All right, let us say kwaheri. It's night.
Ya kuonana.
Ya kuonana.
Asante sana.
All right, to you who's watching, thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Jeremiah Kipenoi. Today we had Bwana Meitaya, and this guy has experienced, the cells in Nairobi and in Tanzania, and I see that the fire is still burning. So if you can do something, please keep what your faith looks like intact. I would preach to you today. Wacha niende. Asante na kwaheri. We gather here to speak, to remember, to question, to build. Just stories in the shade, truth in every tongue, and courage passed hand to hand. This is where the elders spoke. This is where the rebels whispered. This is where dreamers still return. It's the people's tree. From your hearts to the microphones on your devices, this is Chini ya Mti. Under the tree.